After a long 7 months, football is finally getting started again in the city of Philadelphia. Training camp is well underway, with joint practices happening and preseason games to sink our teeth into. The 2025 season, marred by frustration and disappointment, is in the books, locked away in NFL history.
Heavy pressure. Let's see if they peel out.
They back out. Hurts shotgun snap. Hurts steps up middle. Knocked away by Eric Kendricks. The 49ers take over on downs.
There's no going back to fix the mistakes that wasted a valuable year of contention. But there are adjustments to be made to maximize the rest of that window. In this stage of the season, where development is key, the Eagles will be relying on a few people to step up and raise this team's potential. Welcome to No Context Philly, and welcome back to Football in Philadelphia.
Like Ryan said, we're going to be getting into the 6 Eagles who are most important to the team's success in 2026. And for me personally, I think no one better embodies the pressure this team is going to be under than, the quarterback, Jalen Hurts himself, which I know, bold take, calling the quarterback a very important player, but let's get into it. Now, for starters, I don't really think I can make this video and talk about Hurts in good conscience without, speaking on how terrible the play calling was last season, and especially on an Eagles forward platform. That's just something I have to address when talking about, the pressure he's under or how vital he's going to be to the team going forward. As you all saw last season, the Eagles offense was so terrible. It was kind of just a meme, an existing meme. We all saw the Saquon up the middle, AJ Brown deep ball. It was comically bad to the point where you could make memes out of how terrible it was. And it pretty much tortured every Eagles fan. But I'm not bringing that up to absolve Hurts of, all criticism or, all shortcomings in play. I'm just bringing it up to say that I think last year was a really unusual circumstance, and I don't expect that to be something that persists going forward. Now, for Hurts himself, I don't think he was perfect, obviously. I don't think he was without major flaws. And I think the first kind of flaw in his game last season, and to me personally, the main one, and the thing that I think is going to have to change, I think he was really afraid at times to throw with anticipation, to really make these tight window throws, particularly over the middle. And I'm not just saying that to say that. I'm not just saying that to feed you narratives. Hurts, a lot of the time, there would be, when there was a rare route over the middle, a breaking route over the middle, there'd be a reluctancy to just let it fly. And I'm saying that because, I trust this man, Jalen Hurts, with my life. And I really want him this season to just let it fly like an eagle. I want him to make those throws with anticipation. I want him to, be ready to throw over the middle and throw over the middle with timing, and to do it often. He's, had success doing it, but the volume is just so low. He has good tape over the middle, but last season there also was pretty bad gaps and pretty bad just reluctance to make throws. Now, if you want a positive example from a really bad game, there was a throw he had, I believe it was like 3rd and 17 in overtime against the Chargers, that awful game, right? And Devonta Smith cuts on this in-breaking route, and Hurts throws with anticipation, and it's just an on-the-money strike for a first down. And I just found myself thinking, why can't we just continue to run things like that? And I think that is what I expect Sean Mannion to really add to the mix and to really add to the team, is just kind of a regular offense that actually optimizes the middle of the field. I think the other thing that's going to be super vital to the Eagles' success from Hurts in particular is just when he runs, it truly does, open a new dimension for this offense. To me, that is his, superpower as a quarterback. Those elite seasons he's had, 2022 and 2024, those are, when he really uses the run to stress out defenses. And I know 2024, the numbers on that don't look great, but you saw in the playoffs, right, when it really got started and when these games really got high pressure, against the Rams, long rushing touchdown. In the NFC Championship game, he's constantly looking as a threat as a runner. And in the Super Bowl, he really destroyed that Spags defense, and there was a lot of running from him in that game, and I think that's just going to be of the utmost importance for him is, to not be reluctant to run. And I would love to see actual like QB run game. We harped on this all last season, QB power, zone reads, QB zone plays, right? I think that would just add a whole new dimension and free up so much more for the Eagles offense. In closing, what I think the most important things for Jalen Hurts to do this season are, take more risks, be less afraid to turn the ball over. Obviously, turnovers are bad. I don't need to tell you that, but I'm going to say it because sometimes people will take things and run with them. But I really do think more, trying to create explosive plays. I think that's going to be something super necessary for the Eagles offense. And with how good of a player I think Jalen Hurts is, him, being more open to taking risks and trying to make these big plays, I think it'll only add, a ton to the offense. And sure, maybe there will be a turnover here or there that wouldn't have been there in the past, but I think you're going to get that back tenfold in big plays, and then obviously just run. Don't put yourself in, bad or dumb positions, right? But don't be super conservative like he was this last season where, oh, there's pressure, run 2 yards to the left side, as I said earlier, right? So run. Don't be afraid to take risks, and I think the Eagles offense will be great if Jalen Hurts hits on those things.
Play calling is the engine of every offense in football. And Eagles fans know better than anybody, even with Pro Bowl talent at every position in an offense, if you have a bad play caller, all of that can be rendered completely useless. If you were tapped into media coverage of pretty much any sort last season, whether that be national media coverage, local radio shows, or even just online voices like mine, you heard pretty much ad nauseum about the Eagles' offensive struggles last season. I don't think we need to go over how bad it was last season. We've all heard about it. We're sick of hearing about it. Frankly, I think we'd be better off if I didn't even say his name. Let's just leave that trauma in the past. In 2026, the Eagles offense is officially under new management, and new OC Sean Mannion is going to be the new engine driving the Eagles offense. A lot about Mannion's approach is kind of an unknown. He really has no experience in play design or play calling, and all we have to go off of at this point is just one preseason game so far. He did serve as the offensive coordinator in the 2026 East-West Shrine Bowl, but it's probably not going to be an indicative sample size. If we look back at his time in Green Bay, where he served as the quarterback's coach under Matt LaFleur, we can at least see what influences we can expect in this offense. The Packers, like many successful offenses of recent times, they feature a zone-heavy under-center run game, mainly sourcing out of 11 and 12 personnel. From an admittedly very small sample size, the Eagles' first preseason game did seem to follow suit of these influences. 11 of the Eagles' 13 runs in this game came from under center, with 9 of those under center runs being zone scheme. I think we can kind of expect this to be the basis of our run game in 2026, just with a little more nuance coming once we get out of the preseason and reach the regular season. In regards to the passing game, I expect Mannion to focus on the marriage between the pass and the run game, meaning, lean on the defense with these under center zone heavy runs, and then you catch them sleeping with a zone play action fake to pull the linebackers up and attack over the middle of the field. We saw some of this in the first preseason game, but as I said, just having a low sample size, as well as the fact that the Eagles were playing from behind pretty much the entire time, we didn't get to see very much of it. Because of the game situation, the Eagles moved away from the run pretty early, and therefore were unable to set up the play action pass off of it. There is a ton of talent on this offense, and it's going to be Sean Mannion's job to step up, do his job, and maximize this talent through his play calling and scheme. If Sean Mannion is who we hope and think that he might be, this could be one of the most explosive and powerful offenses in the entire NFL. The Eagles don't only have star power on the offensive side of the ball. On defense, they also feature one of the biggest stars in the entire league, and he's coming off a pretty big contract.
The next player I want to get into is Jalen Carter, who very recently was made the highest paid defensive tackle throughout all of NFL history. And, about Carter in particular, I think his 2025 was very interesting. A lot of ups and downs. You saw flashes of that super dominant player that he was in, 2023 as a rookie and 2024 when he was a second team All Pro and had kind of a generational playoff run, right? Like the sack against Matthew Stafford that it saved my life, probably saved yours. But really getting into, last season, it was just super up and down for him. Like I said, we saw those flashes in the pan, but there were also a lot of just really brutal stretches. And for me personally, I think it was because, the shoulder injuries that he was nesting, but, why he's vital and, why peak Jalen Carter is really necessary for Eagles' success is, like we saw in the Super Bowl when they won, this Fangio scheme is really built on the backs of, getting pressure without overly blitzing and being able to have, these complex too high shell coverages and having a defensive tackle who not only just takes on double teams, but can frequently dominate them and create a lot of one-on-one matchups for your edges. I think that's just going to be something that's super vital to the team. So if Jalen Carter is at his peak, the defense is just going to be at a whole nother level. And we saw that when he wasn't his best self, the team wasn't really defending the run well. The team wasn't really getting a good amount of pressure off the edge. And I guess just closing on Jalen Carter and why he's so vital. I think first there is the contract element of it. When you're paid as literally the highest at your position in the history of ever, that comes with the expectation that you're going to be a consistent, dominant force. And it's not just going to be for a stretch. It's not just going to be here and there. You're just always going to be this dominant presence. And how will he be that dominant presence? Getting pressure through the double teams, being, dynamic in the run game, deflecting passes, right? Creating these one-on-one matchups for our edges. If Jalen Carter can do all of those things, this already elite Eagles defense is just going to have an even higher ceiling.
Historically, the Eagles under Nick Sirianni have been always more of a run-centric offense. Nick Sirianni's teams in Philadelphia have always boasted impressive line talent, and they've been able to run the ball efficiently through them. Last year, however, this standard of offensive line play that we've come to expect, it wasn't quite reached. The offensive line's regression last season could be due to a couple of different things. On the interior, Cam Jurgens and Landon Dickerson both struggled with some long-term nagging injuries that affected their play. At right guard, Tyler Steen was having his first season as a starter and played about such. Jordan Mailata was still a stalwart at left tackle, but opposite him at right tackle, Lane Johnson at 35 years old, he just struggled to stay on the field through a couple of injuries. It was Fred Johnson that picked up most of the slack, playing in his absence and played about how you would expect from a backup tackle. With a full offseason to recover, the hope is that both Landon Dickerson and Cam Jurgens are closer to 100% and can return to that dominant form we've seen from them in the past. Tyler Steen getting a full season as a starter. Hopefully he's a more experienced looking player who's just developed more going into his second full year as a starter. And then, as I said, Jordan Mailata has just been one of the best tackles in the league. There is still reasonable concern about Lane Johnson and whether he'll be able to play. My honest expectation is that he's going to look about what we expect from 36-year-old Lane Johnson. He's going to be pretty good. But as precedent has set over the last few years, I just expect he's going to miss a couple games. We already know what Fred Johnson is, and by extension, what he isn't. But perhaps the more intriguing option as a backup tackle is going to be rookie Markel Bell out of Miami. Bell is just a massive human being, and we've heard really good things about him in camp, but he seems to be more of a developmental piece for the future of this line, rather than a true backup who will be ready to go if his number is called. He's flashed some reason for excitement so far, but consistency is going to be key for him. This is a unit that has a lot of pressure on them. If they struggle again, this could be a pretty rough season. But if they're able to return to form, this could be another massive season for running back Saquon Barkley. And quick side note, while we're on the subject of Saquon, he's not washed. Anybody with eyes knows that he's still an elite running back. In total, the offensive line play is a major reason why the Eagles struggled in 2025, and they'll need to get back to where we know that they can be in 2026. Another major point that the Eagles lacked in 2025 was pass rush, and Jonathan Greenard is going to be a big piece in fixing that unit.
The next player I'm going to be talking about was traded to the Eagles during the draft and immediately signed to a massive extension, and that is none other than Jonathan Greenard. Last year, I think just my biggest nitpick of the Eagles defense would be, the pressure on the edge was very inconsistent given the amount of opportunity that they had. You have these amazing coverage corners in DeJean and Quinyon Mitchell. You have very solid linebackers who are also good at blitzing, like Zach Bond. And then you have these dominant defensive tackles in Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis who are consistently commanding doubles. And even with all of that going on, the edge room was, pretty subpar at moments. I'm not saying that, it's Jonathan Greenard or nothing else. I think Jalen Hunt is solid, but I think Jalen Hunt is meant to be, your second best edge. I think Nolan Smith is meant to be your second or third best edge. So having a guy like Greenard come in and, expecting top half of the league edge play, it's going to be super vital because it'll be something that makes the Eagles defense kind of go from elite to unfair, because the Fangio scheme, like I said earlier, it's sort of centered around getting pressure with less guys and, having this elite too high shell coverage. So if we have, this dominant edge, or not even dominant, like I said, top half of the league edge who can take advantage of how great the coverage is and, how, much attention our defensive tackles command, it really is going to be just a next level play. And why he's in, extra important in particular is, that extension to me kind of signals like how he is saying like, hey, you're our guy. We've had this revolving door at edge, whether it be 1 year it's Hassan Reddick, then it's Josh Sweat, then it's Jalen Phillips for half a season, and now it's you. And you're under this long contract, and you're sort of you're meant to be the guy. You're meant to be the guy you were in Minnesota, and you're just going to have even more opportunity playing on a defense that is this stacked, that is led by a great defensive coordinator. In closing, Greenard comes in and he looks to be a direct fix to what I would honestly consider to be the one sort of main weakness for last year's defense. And if he's really able to hit and be the player that we traded for, the player that he was in Minnesota, and capitalize on all these opportunities that he's going to have, that plus, Jalen Hunt getting better, Nolan Smith getting better, blitzing from the linebackers, the Eagles have a chance to sort of recapture how great that defensive line was back in 2024, and back when, they probably had the greatest performance in a Super Bowl from a defensive line, 0 blitzes, but really having Mahomes in hell.
Unfortunately, Greenard has had an injured start to training camp, and his status for week 1 is still up in the air. But fortunately for him and the Eagles defense, it's not about how they start, it's going to be about how they finish.
The last guy I want to talk about is Devonta Smith. And Devonta's a little bit different from the other guys we've talked about in this video. He hasn't really had a dip in play over the last few seasons. There's no real question on if he can perform at a high level because we've all seen that he can. The question with Devonta is different. It's, can he be prepared to step up to be that guy? The answer to that question to me is a resounding yes. I have no doubt that Devonta is going to step up and be that dominant wide receiver 1 in a great offense who will win when you need him to most. We've seen the Slim Reaper be successful as a wide receiver 1 without A.J. Brown in his career, with a notable performance coming against Tampa Bay in the 2024 wildcard game. That game did end in a loss, but Smith proved that he belonged as a wide receiver 1, and he put up an impressive 8 receptions for 148 yards. His only season without Brown on the roster was in 2021, which was Smith's rookie season, where he recorded 64 receptions for 916 yards and 5 touchdowns. Smith has only become a better, more complete receiver since then, and will likely be even more productive in 2026. Really, the only thing left to do is wait and see how Devonta performs in his 6th season. If I haven't really reinforced it enough yet, I'll just say it again. I have a ton of faith in Devonta Smith to be an elite pass catcher in this offense, and truly, I expect him to assert himself as one of the best receivers in the world. The Eagles are a team with a ton of talent all throughout their roster, and they should be primed for a very successful 2026. If these guys are able to step up and hit the ground running this season, the sky is really the limit for this team, and we could see it end in a very familiar conclusion.